I'm not going to make anybody a day trader by the end of the little session tonight. So what we're going to talk about, my area is corporate finance. Like MT said, well, I have a whole canned presentation with my background in it. So we'll get to that in a second. But I'm really curious who you folks are. So if you wouldn't mind, we could go around the room. And yes, I'm going to put my glasses back on so I can read the names, which I think is so cool that your names are right there in front of me. Sometimes in the classroom, again, I'm prideful, so I don't put my glasses on. And I have to go, hey, you sitting there. And point, and that's ridiculous. So now I can, but I have to just remember to put my glasses on. So James, can we start with you? You're in my upper right-hand corner.
Sure, Dr. Weaver, thank you. My name is James Redkay. I currently am the head of sales and operations for the company that I work for. It's a concert production company in New York City called Mid-America Productions. Essentially, we produce large classical music concerts in New York City at Carnegie Hall. My background is actually in music as a pianist and composer, but I've been in business now for about the last decade or so in arts and entertainment operations in that line of work.
Great. James, welcome. Have I ever got two candidates for you when they get a little bit older? My granddaughter finished her first Broadway national tour last year, and my grandson is a classical violist, or however you say that, but he refuses to do any fun music. It has to all be classical. And yeah, anyway, James.
I'm sure we'd get along just fine then. That's good.
Oh, I'm sure. That's great. So let me go over then to the next row. And it looks like Yuchi. I'm really butchering your name. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's Uche.
Uche.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Weaver.
Hi.
Hey, so I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a mechanical engineer looking to get into the field of, machine learning and artificial intelligence. I'm hoping to learn something about, finance tonight. The only thing I know about finance is that Benjamin Franklin is on the $100 bill. So I look forward to, gaining.
All about those Benjamins, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, listen, I think finance along with engineering is a great combination. And I'm sure you've already bumped into finance. We're the people that say no a lot and very forcefully. But we'll go through that. Well, not tonight, but we'll talk. That's what an MBA is great for. You get to see other perspectives. So welcome, Uche. And then I think it's Stephanie. Please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Stephanie Morrow. I currently work on a marketing team for a national law firm, employment law. So it's been kind of crazy this year for us. And I work specifically with CRM systems. Salesforce is probably the most famous one. Working on data strategy and marketing strategy around that. I'm really interested in pursuing an MBA to get into more of a management position and to be able to start directing strategy, specifically business analysis and data strategy.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. How long have you been at your current company?
My current company for about 2 years. My previous background is in e-commerce. I worked for 2 different e-commerce companies, including a startup. I'm in New Jersey. But my undergraduate background is actually in English literature.
Okay. Well, fair enough then. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I think it's Kevin, please.
Yep. Hi, my name is Kevin Kern. I am a manufacturing engineer working for Victaulic here in Easton, PA. I mainly work on automation and the robots that we have on the floor. And looking to get the MBA, just kind of have some more tools in the toolbox as I begin to advance further in my career. If I take that next step to a managerial position or anything like that. So yeah, just want to have those extra skills that you get from the MBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then Dan, please.
Dan Kelly. I currently work for PPL Electric Utilities based out of Allentown, Pennsylvania, right down the road from Lehigh. I've been at PPL for almost 10 years now. I'm currently a field supervisor, but I'm working on their large transformation project for integrating a new technology to help with our management systems. So and I've been looking into an MBA.
Well, welcome, Dan. Again,
I've been looking into MBA for the last couple of years, and I feel like it's a perfect time for me to kind of jump into it and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know until you take that first step. But I just commend you. You got to get out and take that first step. We have a number of people in the program that work at PPL and have had for years and years and years. So yeah, many of your colleagues are going through this as well. So great. Welcome, Dan. And Brian, I think you're up.
Hi, yes, Brian Chitundu, and I'm joining from New Jersey. My current employer is Mars Wrigley, so I'm actually interested.
Brian.
I'm interested in everything you have to share about Hershey, so I can take the secrets with me.
Oh, I'm really interested in what you're going to share about Mars. Mars is this private company. It's a mom and pop company that I have no idea. I'll make this number up, Brian. You don't even have to react. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see your face. I'll say $50 billion in sales. You're not even allowed to smile or grimace over something like that because you'll get fired. So no, Hershey is public. Everything's out there. But yeah, no, Mars and Hershey in the US are number 1 and 2 market share, healthy competition between the two. And
Right.
I would say it's rather gentlemanly.
Yeah, it is. We've managed to coexist, and I've been with the business about 10 years now, and my role right now is an industry engineering manager. So this topic today particularly interests me around investments and capital. But yeah, I'm just curious about the MBA program. I know the business environment is changing, so I'm curious to learn what academia is saying is new thinking, and as well as what's happening in the industry. So that's my curiosity.
Great. Well, I think you'll get a little taste of that this evening, hopefully. So great. So, and then next up is Ibrahim, please.
Oh, hi there. My name's Ibrahim. I live out in Wisconsin. By profession, I'm a pharmacist. So I'm in a small town in Wisconsin, rural town called Toma, and looking to pursue an MBA to gain some managerial experience and then consider some of those management positions in a hospital setting.
Oh, that's great, Ibrahim. So that's wonderful. And I think definitely our MBA, now I'm sorry, I don't know the rest of our MBA. My class is transformative, that it can fit into almost any situation, even if you were an English major, and you can transform into that. And I think I speak in English so that I understand it's not everybody's first language. And we can take it and build from there. So, Ibrahim,
Sure.
Welcome. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Sure. And it's Andrew next, please.
Yeah, sure. I'm Andrew Mound. I currently work for DuPont Nutrition and Biosciences, soon to be IFF. I'm on their technical team, supporting their pharma solutions business. And I'm pursuing an MBA mainly because in the last few years, my role's kind of blended into more of a technical marketing role. And I've been responsible for kind of more content generation and value proposition driving at our customers in like a business to business environment. So looking forward to kind of learning more about that and how we can use kind of data to drive our decision making as far as who we would talk to from a customer side.
Absolutely, Andrew. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, it's about that well-rounded person in business that's flexible enough, can understand what other people are saying with the technicality behind it. So welcome, welcome. So then it looks like Connor's up next. Connor, your mic's off.
Is that better?
That's much better. Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that. Sorry. No, I'm in on the phone call because my browser's not working correctly, so I figured it.
You just cut out on us.
Is this better?
That's much better.
All right. Sorry about the difficulties. No, I'm an industrial engineer up at Victaulic up in Easton, PA as well with Kevin. I work in our foundry. For the last 7 months, I've been working as a production supervisor, managing in a union shop. So my biggest thing is I want to understand how strategic decisions impact the company as a whole, not just in one specific area. And right now, you know, I don't have the full work experience, only a couple of years coming in. I wanted to go a few more years working before I start to work towards my MBA. But given the world that's happening right now, I figured there's no better time and nothing better to dedicate myself to working towards these classes. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So no, I hear what you're saying. And I think many people are thinking the same. And it's a great time to retool. We're tool up for the first time. So Connor, welcome.
Thank you.
Justin.
Hi, my name's Justin Hawk. I'm also part of the Victaulic crew. I work as a production supervisor right now. I did my undergraduate in mechanical engineering, and I'm hoping to get an MBA to better myself as a leader, become higher in the management, and probably get better at decision making and communication with my employees.
Oh, great, Justin. So far, a number of people have said the same thing, looking to take that next step, looking to develop and learn more about what's going on around you at a different level than day to day and just in your area. And I can tell you, that's what the MBA program provides. I certainly try to provide that in 402, my class. So welcome, Justin. So that's 3 people so far from Victaulic, and that's over in Easton, right?
Correct.
Okay, not too far. Excellent. Well, great. Welcome, welcome. And then it looks like Tom's up next.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dr. Weaver.
Hey, Tom.
I'm joining from Chicago. I currently work in translation and localization. And well, I did my master's degree in Germany. And so I'm looking to start an MBA to kind of pivot, or as you just said, retool from the translation, localization industry into management consulting, potentially living and working in Germany for a consultant company.
Okay, good. But you're in Chicago now?
I'm in Chicago right now, yes.
Okay, good. I think I've seen you on House Hunters, looking over in Germany at different apartments and things. No, I'm kidding. Never mind, Tom. Sorry.
Might have seen me on House Hunters.
I jump in some. I'm sorry?
You might have seen me on House Hunters looking for places in Germany. No,
that's it. That's exactly where I saw you. So, and I'm sorry, I'm too familiar and informal. So I jump in right on things and I forget that you don't have a clue who I am. And so I come across really, what's this guy doing anyway? So welcome, Tom, welcome. So, and Jared, it looks like you're up.
Hi, Dr. Weaver. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can, Jared. Sounds good.
So I'm a human resources and accounting specialist at a research and development company in Pittsburgh. So I'm responsible for a lot of the back office operations.
Okay.
We were recently acquired by our largest customer, who is a fan of higher education, and I thought an MBA in this position would be a good idea. I'm looking to hopefully acquire a management position and be the one that says no to people.
Absolutely, Jared. I can understand that. And again, one of my favorite people I've met over the years at a company that I was doing some consulting for was the HR VP. And he was great. He simplified all of this finance stuff in English that he could talk to all his people, and not only his people, but everyone in the company, as well as the senior management in the company. And he was just great, taught me a lot of things along the way. And I don't know that I ever thought I would be saying those words, but he was just great. So we do have a topic this evening about risk analysis in financial decision-making. And I only have a deck of slides that I think goes about 105 slides. So we're gonna have to be really, come on, I'm not gonna do that. But I don't have any belief that we're gonna get close to done, and it's not quite that bad. It's only, 60 some slides, but I'm not gonna go breakneck speed because that's ridiculous. I do recognize that everybody's worked a full day, and so we can't go just start it up and let it roll. But you would be able to access, we'll give you enough flavor here, and you would be able to access the slides at the end. I'll pass them over to Mary Teresa, so she'd be a great person to talk with if you want my slides. I think I even put my email in case you want it directly from me or you have questions directly from me. So again, let me share my screen. Cool. So you should have this blue background presentation called Risk Analysis in Financial Decision Making. And there's all my initials and everything. Just to go to the next page. This is my background. This and I guess $5 gets me a cup of coffee at almost any place except Starbucks. But this is my background. I did a PhD at Lehigh in finance, 1985. Before that, in 1978, I was actually an MBA student at Lehigh. So I'm one of who you're thinking about becoming. And I was always impressed with everyone at Lehigh. So I'm really a big supporter all the way along. I have a certified management accounting certificate. Also, I'm a certified financial manager. As was mentioned, I was director of financial planning and analysis at Hershey Foods, both on the corporate staff and then also in the chocolate company. I was an adjunct professor for 12 years at Lehigh as I wrapped up my PhD. Adjunct just means you come back and do one course a semester, part-time evening with my MBAs. And I've been a professor of finance full-time since '98. I also do consulting and professional education. I publish a couple of textbooks, some other professional books, numerous articles and cases. But the one thing about my work is it's all applied. I'm not good at the theoretical things, and my life goes on. I'm okay with that. So these are my prior books. This one over here on the left was my textbook. Oh my gosh. I wrote this with my co-author, Fred Weston, and Fred was one of the biggest names in finance. He passed away a few years ago. And in this case, I felt so embarrassed. My students would ask me, do I really have to buy your book? And I'd have to say, yeah, that's probably the best thing. It was $250. Ridiculous. So these other books over here, much more affordable, $30 a pop. And these over here were translated into various languages. I know I have a traditional and a more modern Chinese version. I have a Korean book. I have a dialect of Indian. I even have a Russian book, which I'm just amazed what they do with your work once they get a hold of it. This is my current book, and it's been a while and I've gotten busy, so I haven't really stayed at it. But this is the one that we currently use. Like I said, it sells for a price point in the low $30. So it's very affordable. And despite the affordability, I still have some of my MBA students tell me that that's the only book they retained. So our topic tonight is about capital investment analysis. What I want to do is I want to look at financial analysis of a new product decision. So lots of actual that I'll bring forward. MT said I tell a lot of Hershey stories. I do, not a lot, but a number of them. And we're going to look at basic discounted cash flow analysis, sensitivity and scenario analysis, data tables, and I'll actually just brush into the topic of Monte Carlo analysis. Okay. So I'm curious. Let me stop sharing a second. Oh yeah, I get nervous. I don't know where I'm at in the world of Zoom, and I've gotten a heck of a lot better than I was the first time I did this back at the end of March, but I still get nervous that everybody's left and I'm here just babbling to no one. And that's an uneasy feeling for me. So let me get back to screen sharing. Maybe I can do this a little bit differently. Share screen. Let's pop this. Share. Okay. So what I wanted to do was 5 steps for investment analysis. This is what I should have done. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around now. How many people here get involved with capital investment where you're currently working? Does anybody propose capital projects? Who was my industrial engineering person?
This is Brian here. I do, it's a good portion of my job is proposals for investments.
Okay, so then you understood my joke when I said we're in finance, the people that always say no to you, Brian, but I'm sure that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I would say it's a more of a partnership. I think we're in more agreement. We're really arguing against marketing and their ideas, but yes, there's a tension there.
So you said you were working at Hershey, is that right?
No.
Well, it sure sounded like old times there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing.
Anyway, there's a lot of, we are data driven, we are methodology based, but there's a lot of real world interactions that you need to appreciate. And that's what else I bring into a classroom. We talk about real world things. So let me go back to my share screen, pick that up, and let's share this. These are 5 steps for estimating investment analysis. In my latest book, I had to start off my chapter, boil it down, and these were my 5 steps. Estimate the initial investment. Determine annual incremental cash flows. Project the final year's cash flows. Find the present value and determine the net present value. So you find the present value of all those cash flows, subtract the investment from it, and you have a net present value. If it's positive, probably makes sense for you to go ahead. If it's negative, it could be a barometer that you don't want to make that next step. And then I'll also say, unless it's your boss's favorite project of all time, in which case you do a quick assessment on career sanity, and maybe you alter your impression. So the one I wanted to talk about at first was this one, Resticks. Now, the one thing that I haven't quite been able to garner on how I can go about this and make this happen. Resticks, these are Resticks. Ooh, where's my friend? There's my friend from Mars. Mars actually played a role in this. These are Resticks. And this is where I would pass them out amongst the group. And you can have some of these, and they're really good, I'll say. And like I said, we have a respectful appreciation of each other, folks at Mars and folks at Hershey. But in this case, it is, as you can see, it's wafers with peanut butter between them. And then it's enrobed in chocolate, packaged and sent out from there. So this was my last new product that I worked on. And the way that came about is marketing had the idea for Resticks, thought it would have some good traction, did a lot of work to support the sales estimates. They went to engineering and got engineers involved with this. And eventually it came over to me in finance, help us with this. And fine. We'll look at some of the results there, hugely successful. Now it's on a bit of the mature side. So it's slowing down, but fair enough. So this, oh my gosh, is this an eye chart? Okay, let's not worry about any line item here. Even with 2 sets of glasses on, I'm fine. No, I can read it with 1 set. I'm not going to put you through that. But this is what a capital project looks like, especially for a new product, where you may notice here that the first year we were anticipating sales of $68 million. Okay. It's a 10-year project. That was a standard operating procedure at Hershey at that time. Cost of sales were estimated. Depreciation, this was actually a 7-year life makers. It's better to use tax depreciation. Got our operating income, and then you see it wander down to after-tax operating income, add back the depreciation, take into account any working capital, and that gives me my incremental operating cash flows. That's what we're going to use to do our analysis. Okay. Again, I don't know how many people at work use something called ROI. Did anybody ever hear that before? ROI?
Yeah, I've used it in marketing for measuring advertising revenue, and what if it's worth it to like invest in using a particular like Google Analytics product or other software.
Wow, Stephanie, I don't know anything about that world. My son says he does that, and I don't know anything about that. So yeah, see, I believe we can teach each other some things here too. I'll give context around it, how to apply it in the business world, but absolutely. So in this case, I was looking at, back to sharing the screen. In this case, ROI, very common technique method out there, calculation that's out there. Lots of businesses use it. And I'm just kidding. I know how to calculate it. It's income divided by your asset base. But it's inappropriate for capital investment purposes. Capital investment purposes, I mean, just look at this if you would. We're investing $55 million, and this first year you're gaining $671,000 of income. I'm sorry, 671 divided by 55 million. If I were doing ROI, I would say, well, that's worthless. We're not going ahead with this project. But the problem is those first couple of years, especially with a new product, look at all this additional product launch expense, which disappears after 2 years. you learn some lessons along the way, how to produce it, how to market it. And this, we need to look at over a horizon. I mentioned Hershey, many companies do a 10-year horizon. We have all these cash flows. We find the net present value, the present value of all these cash flows is 55,440 minus, well, that's the investment amount. And then here's all the positivity. The net present value is 3,729,000. Sounds like we should do this project. And those numbers, while they're not exactly Hershey's numbers, it wasn't that far off. And it was a few $1,000,000, but we earned our cost of capital, which I set in this case at 8%. I'm sorry, as here we are, 11%, the cost of capital. Okay. So that was reality. And the Resticks were born. They went ahead and launched. The reality was that $68 million in first year sales never materialized. It was much more like $90 million. So highly successful, well beyond what anybody ever imagined. But then that started the conversation and moved us forward. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about a hypothetical new product. I want to use this to just illustrate some more of the decision-making that needs to go on here. Should we invest in this or not? And there's a lot of conversations. I believe those conversations are very necessary. So this is Milton's Madness. I don't know. I created this, so I'm not really a marketing person. That's the extent of my creativity. So Milton's Madness is a milk chocolate bar with peanuts, marshmallows, shaved white chocolate inclusions. And yeah, okay, fair enough. After a 6-month test market, consumers rated the bar very high at one initial trial. Interest seemed to slowly waver after multiple trials. So it was clear this was a product that had a very limited time frame. So it was geared towards not the 10 years, but geared towards a 5-year horizon. So we learned lessons from Resticks. First year sales were estimated at 45 million, and that was August to December. Then, of course, in that second year, those sales needed to be annualized, and 25% more was going to be sold in that second year, so $56.25 million. Then sales growth will be at 20% for year 3, 12% for year 4, and finally, sales after 5 years, people get bored with it, okay? So I didn't pause. Let me jump back to this page. I should ask this question. Has anyone ever had a Restick? Kevin, thank you very much. I'll write that down. And when I see you in 402, I'll be sure to put a star by your grade, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. Stephanie, did you ever see a Restick? Do you ever have a Restick?
I think so, but not in a long time.
Not in a long time. And they don't support it as much. In my model there that I shared with you, it was launched in year 1 and then garnered a lot of support to build that brand, direct brand expense, if you would, okay? Resticks, and I'm not sure you can, oh, I hate doing this, but I apologize to you, okay? This is what a Restick looks like. So much better when I have a product in hand, and I'm not gonna rip this bar open, but in this case, has anybody ever seen a product like this with wafers and something between the wafers and then enrobed in chocolate? Has anybody ever seen that product somewhere?
Yeah, like
a Kit Kat.
It's a Kit Kat king size.
Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Dave and Jared or Andrew, whoever that was. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Yeah, like a Kit Kat. So that's absolutely the wrong answer. Okay. Thank you so much for playing our game, but I have to report back to MT that you gave the wrong answer. This is not a Kit Kat. Just the fact that it looks like a Kit Kat has nothing to do with anything. It is a Re-Stick, brand new product, never before seen in the world. Yeah, at Hershey, we had rose-colored glasses on, blinders on. We didn't look beyond what we were looking at. And yeah, it does look like a Kit Kat bar. So when Re-Sticks were introduced, like I said, they blew away their plan for sales in that year one. Kit Kat sales went down and stabilized eventually, okay? But cannibalization, very real part of a new product. And then you check, I think you're the fellow that's over at Mars, is that right?
Oh, that's Brian.
Oh, Brian, I am sorry. Okay, Brian. Yeah. So this a little insight, Brian. I guess I can say this. What are they going to do? Withhold my paycheck? They've been doing that for 22 years now because I haven't worked there. So Brian, actually, there is a product that you folks at Mars make, and that's this product that doesn't have wafers in it, but it's in fingers. That's what they call these little things here. And it's in Rogan chocolate. The Mars product has this wonderful cookie in it. Brian, what product am I talking about?
I think you're talking about Twix.
You got it, Twix. Okay. And Twix, and I got to confess, Brian, please, I got to confess, I like Twix. I think it's a great cookie that they have. The caramel is nice and soft, and the chocolate, okay, on that product, I like it as much as, I like it more than a Hershey chocolate, but you didn't hear that from me. And fine. But Brian, 20 plus years ago, the people from Mars, not you, Brian, but other people, you know, your predecessor, there was a list at the end of the 80s of the top 20 candy bars in the US by sales. Excuse me. That list, my gosh, I'm going to die in front of you. That's terrible. That list was the same list that existed back in 1930. So really no change, with one noted exception. One candy bar cracked into the top 20, which is almost impossible to do. And that was the Twix bar. So again, nice product, really went out and hammered sales, so got that recognition. But then, Brian, I won't even ask you this because that's kind of, I don't want to put you in an awkward position with your company, but those folks at Mars, certainly not you, Brian, or any of your contemporaries, but back then got greedy about things. And they took the Twix bar and they, instead of that nice, wonderful caramel, they put peanut butter on it. And then they wrapped it in orange. I don't know if you know, orange is Hershey's Reese's color, but they wrapped it in orange and they started selling it as brand new Twix with peanut butter in orange wrap. The folks at Hershey immediately started suing. Brand infringement. We spent how many billions of dollars? Billions, millions of dollars coming up with orange, that's recognition for Reese's. And then our biggest competitor comes along and steals that from us lawsuit immediately, and Hershey prevailed. And that's the kind of lawsuit that's triple damages. So we got a lot of money from Mars. Thank you very much. The attorneys were just incredible. They would walk down the halls. People would come out of their offices to bow down. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. You guys did a great job for us. And marketing got sick and tired of hearing about how good the attorneys are. So marketing said, well, that's playing defense. Let's play offense. Let's come up with resticks to take it, Brian, unfortunately, to Mars and hit them where it counts in their Twix product. Yeah. Now I have to work with groups, even when it's in front of them and they're tasting it, to come up that this is a substitute for Twix. Nobody with the taste behind it, the mouthfeel and all those good kind of words, nobody comes up that this is supposed to be like the Twix bar, okay? But that's where it came about. That's why it came about. And let me go back to a screen share. And sometimes I think it's important to have some of the background here. So back to my hypothetical. Again, Milton's madness has nothing to do with anything. It's coming out of the mind of a finance person. Really doesn't sound good or taste good. I don't know how you keep shaved white chocolate inclusions together when you put it into a vat of hot brown chocolate, but whatever. Learned lessons from Resticks. First year sales will be $45 million, August to December. And then you start with the top line, blow that out over the, in this case, 5 years, estimate the cost of goods sold at 56%, fixed cost of goods sold, as you see there, selling, marketing, and admin dollars, tax rate, equipment was 60 million plus 3 million for working capital. And again, the cost of capital, the required rate of return is 11%. So in this case, here's the model. Well, this isn't actually anything for business. It's a replica of, this ties neatly to my case study, which was published down at the Darden School. And this is an example better that you can read of what a capital investment analysis looks like. In this case, it was only there for 5 years. You see that this, because it was half year, started growing in year 2 and year 3, year 4. But like I mentioned, after 5 years, it started to come back together and it started to lose share tremendously. So in this case, I would still accept the project because it has 4,368,000 of net present value. Its value is that much more than the investment amount, okay? If you believe my assumptions, accept the project. So it's positive net present value, except for the last year, improving annual sales, except for the last year, improving margins, buy the equipment, start production, introduce Milton's Madness, the wackiest, best tasting new product in decades. I don't know, I'm not a marketing person, but there's a lot of risk behind that. Management wasn't really sure about where we were going, and we needed to do some sensitivity, some scenario analysis. So a survey in finance, well over half the companies do sensitivity analysis. I have a little quiz that goes with this, but I cut it out for purposes this evening. And we just don't know on something that's new. Oh, look, if it's history, we can find out. But that's not how you evaluate capital projects. You evaluate capital projects based upon what you're assuming is going to happen. What if first year sales don't materialize? What if subsequent year growth rates falter? How important is attaining the project margins, tax rates, working capital? What about the cost of capital? We have so much uncertainty. Yeah, we can look at our example here and talk through this and say, yep, the net present value is $4.4 million. Do this investment. Really? You're going to bet your career on that number? Probably not. And that's what takes us into sensitivity analysis and scenario analysis. Okay. Sensitivity analysis. Data tables, I'll call it here. And what we'll go with here, I don't know that you're going to get much of a taste for DuPont analysis. I'm sorry, not DuPont, but for Monte Carlo analysis. But we will talk about sensitivity. If there's some takeaways that I would offer you for this evening in the 10 minutes that we have remaining is nobody knows what's going on in the future. So do sensitivity. Take your variables and test them. Talk to management. Let them understand what shot they're calling. So data tables is one mechanical way that Excel will facilitate for you. So with data tables here, additional sales growth, 0% is using the sales growth exactly like in the base case model. If growth rates go down 1%, you're looking at a loss in value of $1 million. If they go down 3%, you're looking at almost $3 million loss. Kind of almost wipes out the net present value. Margins, really impactful on margins. You got to be sure about margins. But if they falter, if they gain, that you're increasing your margins, your net present value goes up too. Somehow management's never really interested in that. Management's more interested in what happens if they go south. Okay. Well, that takes me to this table. And I really am going to change this up on the fly. It was great getting to meet you. And I know I always talk more than I ever have time for. This is something called a data table 2. The two most impactful in this little playing around Blackboard, whatever you want to say, analysis that I pulled together, the two biggest things affecting a new product would be sales growth and operating margin. Okay. So I'm looking at my net present value. Let me jump back here and I'll flip back here to slide 17 very quickly. Here's my net present value. This is what's turning on green lights throughout the organization. Great project to go off and do, introduce the new product. But you're never going to be able to introduce that without having people in the background chirping at you that this isn't a good number. I don't like the assumptions that are here. You had growth assumptions. I'm not really keen on them. Margin assumptions. I have no idea how you ever came up with those margin assumptions. So there's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of doubters. There's also a lot of people that feel more positively about it. Data table. Data table 2. Look. I believe, given these assumptions for sales growth, given these assumptions for margins, I believe this project is worth $4.4 million. Thank you very much. That's the net present value that I'm hoping to get out of this. But somebody sitting in the meeting where we're presenting this is looking at it going, I don't know, those assumptions are kind of weak. I don't know if they're going to be able to get that pattern, realize that fullness of those sales growth assumptions. So I'm not sure that this sales growth here that they have embedded in the model is really the best choice. Maybe I could look here at what happens if I'm 3% lower. That net present value drops. Okay. What happens if you can't get the margins? In this case, if you go down 3 margin points, you're looking at only 294,000, still positive, still a good decision, but not nearly the magnitude you thought you had when you were $4 million higher in that net present value. Or any combination that a senior executive in the room could look at this and in their own mind say, I'm just not comfortable where you are. Maybe I'm comfortable. Maybe it's up here. I would be really happy if your growth would be 1% lower and your expenses, your margin would be 1% higher. It's kind of a push in that case. That's what we can do with data tables. And the next bunch of pages here really explores Excel, how to set up data tables. And I hope this is enough of a little guide to help you through this. Let me pause this a second, stop sharing. Does anybody do this type of work where you're looking to the future, you're making some estimates, some projections? Stephanie, I think you said about ROI on your marketing investment.
Yeah, so I don't do this work specifically. I could do it in the future. I can see us trying to project or predict if an investment in like advertising money, for example, would pay off in terms of customer or client acquisition, or the amount of money we would earn from that customer or client. So I could see the projections kind of matching up in that way.
And that's where, and I'm sure, so you mentioned about customer acquisition. I think that's probably tied to sales price, maybe, I don't know. Some things along that, making it multidimensional. That's where the data table, especially data table 2s, come into play so strongly, because you give management the power. At Hershey's management team, at least when I was there in those years, they thought they were very quantitative. They really weren't. They got so confused with numbers so quickly. One time I mentioned about the standard deviation of a project, and I lost the group for the entire meeting because they were wondering why I was talking about the guy that would hang out at the drugstore in town. And I'm sorry for this, this is too late. That was the only standard deviant that they knew, but they had no clue what a standard deviation was, or they didn't want to hear anything about that. What's the answer? Well, it's not quite so crystal clear. So I could do a data table 2 and ask for their assistance. They could sit aside of me and guide me with the assumptions. And that was a very meaningful back and forth with them. And it got to be so much so that we couldn't really go through a presentation if I didn't have my data tables there to share with them. I think it's a really handy technique, very useful technique. Let me go back to sharing that screen. So
Dr. Weaver,
please.
If I could just ask, so it's very clear, you know, the use of this net present value. And in my experience, we use it more in this calculation of comparing one investment to another, where you have a relative reference, which investment is better. Yeah. What can you say about if you're looking at a project in isolation and that absolute number doesn't tell you much besides it's positive or negative? So is there something in evaluating that net present value versus the investment you're making, or something that can show a relative comparison of the project alone, not versus a different investment?
Sure, Brian. So we could have some wonderful conversations. I just have to figure out how far I want to go with you and your class at Lehigh, because I have a lot of useful tips that I helped create when I was at Hershey. And I don't think you folks do this at all. And I'm trying to think of my friend, one of my undergraduate students went to work at Mars, And Bobby, and I'm not going to remember his name. I've been trying to think about it ever since we met.
It's Bobby Willis.
Bobby Willis. Oh, MT, thank you so much. Did you know Bobby Willis, Brian?
No.
And I know Mars is a really big place. Just like if you asked me if I knew somebody at Hershey, probably not. But Bobby Willis, I think, MT, he got into marketing.
He did. He was in marketing. He left there. He went to a baking company, and it's escaping me now. And he is currently at Nike as their director of sales strategy.
Okay, good, good. Brian, we can have all these real world conversations in class. And I think my typical MBA student likes when I get off script, and I like when I get off script. That's where the more meaningful conversations happen, because you can read it in my book. Okay, cool. And yes, I do believe in, yeah, we'll go through things in class, but it's those interactive conversations, real live. That's where the value really comes from. I believe, at least. Okay. So let me I'll take 5 minutes since I said I was going to be doing Monte Carlo. This is like my job at Hershey. Data tables, I really believe in the concept. It's a function within Excel. These next number of slides talk about how you go about accomplishing them. They're not overwhelming in complications, but the Monte Carlo analysis. Monte Carlo is this extremely interesting technique, especially if you're an academic. That's where it came from. I have software. I can do this. I can understand how to interpret, but I just don't know how to actually apply this with real world people. It loses something in translation. Monte Carlo basically says, hey, look, all of those assumptions have a range of possibilities. So Monte Carlo basically, oh, these are my roulette wheels, okay? With, like, for instance, first year sales are written down on this roulette wheel. Additional sales growth, incremental sales growth is written down here. Margin improvement is written down here, and on and on and on. I think I have like 9 roulette wheels here. And you spin them. And where they stop, that's what you pick up as your assumption to run through your model. And you jot down that number. And you go back, and you spin the wheels again. Where they stop, you run it through the model, you jot down, you calculate, and jot down the net present value for your second attempt. Then go back, you do that 1,000 times. And at the end, you get this descriptor that basically, like here's 21 results from spinning the wheels. And here's the output. That's what comes out of the Monte Carlo, so that I can look at this and I could say from my results, I'm looking at a net present value. It remains positive, $5.9 million positive, whoops, I'm sorry, 4.5 million do the project. It's positive. But along the way, you get this depth behind your results. Still, hey, look, it's about the future. I didn't know we were going to have a pandemic when I introduced this project, okay, this new product. I can't control any of that, but I can anticipate. I can look at what happens. How would we read and react? So in this case, that net present value goes from a negative 8 million to a positive 18 million. And in fact, I could prepare something like this where I look at the net present value summary. I would be telling Hershey's management team that I am, given the analysis, given those assumptions, I'm 80% comfortable that this project has a positive net present value. as a decision maker, James, do you want to do this project? And yeah, we get to interact. You get to ask me a lot of questions. Good. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I would think with 80%, then most likely yes.
Yeah. So you never worked at Hershey, did you, James?
No, ate a lot of it though, but didn't work.
Well, good. Much better than that Mars stuff. But hey, Brian. So in this case, would you agree with James at 80%? You would say, yep, let's do the project. 80% chance, positive net present value?
I would agree with James.
Okay, cool. Well, unfortunately at Hershey, people would follow up with that and go, what do you mean? There's only an 80% chance. I'm not doing that project. I got to be 100% sure to accept the project to give you the money. And that was my bane of existence. I needed to try to give people reality. Okay, so then what you do, after a while, you keep asking mom and dad for something, then you realize that it's much better to ask to be forgiven than permission. And so much of that happens. But in this case, no, people at Hershey never wanted to hear that you could actually not achieve your net present value, which I think is so unrealistic. Monte Carlo analysis is that methodology that can get you there. Now, I got to be honest, truth in advertising, for 4 years, I gave myself an objective to introduce Monte Carlo to senior management at Hershey. 4 years, thumbs down. Never made that objective. I only gave it a 5% weight, so it wasn't going to be too impactful financially, but no one was ever interested. No matter how I tried to get people excited about this, they're going, yeah, no, I don't know what these standard I don't like statistics. I got beaten up in that. And so never really accomplished my objectives there. So academia is a little safer to try things. And we still do a project using Monte Carlo in my summer class, but not in my core class, where it is more about useful techniques, solid techniques that I think everyone can agree to. So, wow, MT, I knew I was going to go long and long and long, and I apologize for that. I apologize to everybody here. Sometimes I get excited and I see new people here. I'm really excited about all of that. And so I go on a bit longer. I hope maybe the sense you can get, there's a lot of energy in the classroom, even if it's just from the faculty, but I wish I could bring you all into my classroom this semester. The energy level in that room is just off the hook. I was going to say it's ridiculous. It is, but on a positive side, I don't have to really start conversations. They start themselves. And the members of the class, as I tend to find Lehigh MBAs, are all very solid professionals with a good focus on careers, family, life. And I just think it's a great place to be. It always was my number one choice to come back to and teach full time in. And again, my work tends to be real and applied. And so I wish you well as you look to make the decision. MT, I'm going to send you that presentation. So I think if you want to do some follow up and actually look at the rest of my notes or have the rest of my notes, MT would be the right person to contact. And with that, thank you all very much for your attention. And it's been great meeting you. I hope that in the fairly near future, have a real good chance of meeting all of you. And after this summer, more like in the fall, actually being able to meet you would be great face to face. But if not, this seems to work okay. Anyhow, you all take care and we'll catch you next time.